Yeah.
Are you sorry?
Yeah.
I actually wanted to phrase that as a would you believe, but I didn't want to make it.
She was busy, right? She had 4 15-minute things.
Okay, I'm here.
Good.
Hello. Hello. Oh, wait, under the wire, over the wire. Oh.
Okay, what's on the docket for today here at the Education Funding Committee is that we are here for executive session, of which we can, and we have a little statement on the bottom that other bills that previously been heard may be exec today. That decision will be made as we move forward here. For everybody that's in attendance today, let's see, we have a sub to my left. Representative Hall, you're in for Representative Luno? Okay, and Representative Ames just arrived. Is Representative Fellows going to be here today?
She is coming. I think we're all coming. I guess.
So everybody else should be coming, and everybody is here. We have,
Oh, Mike Drago.
not right now though, if we need him. He's going to be in labor. He's not going to be in.
Correct. I hope he has luck with that.
Yeah,
Is this?
Anyways, I gotta let him know when he's needed.
that's a deal that if we need him, and we may not. And we have Representative Weiler standing in for Representative Erf. So with that, what I want to do is, everybody should have a form that looks like this right here in front of you with the 5 early bills, which we have, not early bills, the 5 bills which have not yet been addressed by executive session, one of which is an early bill. That's the bottom one, 586. The other 4 bills are due out on May 7th. Now, walking through what we're going to do today, we're going to break into a caucus once we explain some of the pieces of paperwork you have here on the desktop. On 586, there is an amendment, and this is a bill which we need to exec today, seeing it is due out this week. And 586 is requiring school districts to publish school administrative unit audit report after the end of the fiscal year. There is a amendment 1472H, and it's underneath Representative McGuire's name. And he has gone through and looked at this and come up with this amendment. I can't explain it because I'm going to have him explain it when we get to it. But you, during your caucuses, want to be looking at that amendment.
I could explain it.
And yeah, just hold on one second. We may do that after I take the other bills. 580, which is the bill just on top of it, relative to establishing a school cooperative purchasing program. That's the bill that looks like it has 3 separate bills within it. It's not. That was how it was originally introduced, with probably some changes on the laundry list of policies which are within it. So it has the issue dealing with the cooperative purchasing program, which we heard comments, remember, from Charlie Arlinghouse. And then the policy statements, which are in there, suggesting that those be required of charter school board trustees and school board members in their districts. And the latter part deals with the what is it? The reaction to the receivership as a result of, I would assume, as to what happened with Claremont this past year. That bill we will be looking at today, excuse me, and we do have a side-by-side, which Jennifer Four has put together when we come to 580, showing the sections of 580, and also looking at education rules 303.04, and also there is some reflection of this in 306.04. And she will go through this, seeing that she has just recently put this together and she knows what, where the changes are to save us some time. We'll do that when we get to 580, not right now. The other 3 bills on the top, 491, we do have an amendment that is in Representative Peoples' name and Representative Bricky's name. That is a bill that we asked as a committee that those two reps put together and bring back to us. It's on the upper part of that bill. The second amendment, which is there, is a bill amendment which I put together, which is a request that came out of the Legislative Oversight Committee dealing with looking at the curriculum frameworks and the confusion with academic standards and trying to get language squared away so we are talking about academic standards. So when we're looking at a so-called framework, we don't have to sort through and find out what is a performance indicator, what is an academic standard. It's just not clearly identified, and there's a lot of confusion out there. And it's come out of the Legislative Oversight Committee that that confusion can be eliminated if we get rid of the terminology of curriculum frameworks. So that's something we will be dealing with, but we can't deal with it today because it is a non-germane amendment to 491. So 491 will be addressed on this month on the 28th. So count on having a meeting at 10 o'clock on the 28th where we will address these other three bills. 513, the requiring, you're familiar with the Owner's Project Manager, OPM. This is a bill that was put in by Senator Abbas, and we've had it prior to this time. It's simply a bill that it replicates what has come to us in the past with amendments, changes that we put in the law 2 years ago. I'm holding on to that bill in case that we have other things we want to amend to that as non-germane, but it gives us a vehicle to carry something forward. The other bill, 531, cosmetology program up in Coos County. There's concerns there with that, but we will discuss those. The concerns are, do we really need the bill? That is one issue. It's talking about a task force that's put together by the community college system to look at cosmetology up there. And my question would be that we will discuss when we get there. Do we have to have a task force every time the university system or the community college system is intending of putting a course at a certain location? Did Keene State College do that when they put the construction OSHA safety program in place? No. That they already have that within their policy, their directives. The board of trustees for those various campuses are the ones responsible for doing that. The second part of it also in that bill references that we can have community college system as a location for CTE programming. I think if you read that bill carefully, the sentence prior to that, it already provides that ability. We may not need it, but we may be able to use that also to carry other non-germane language forward. So I'm not prepared to address 491, 513, or 531 today. We will be doing 580 and 586. Now, Representative McGuire, to help us save some time while we're in caucus, can you wade us through 586?
It's really not that long, but yes. So I previously handed out an amendment was number 13 something or other. You can discard that. That was just a draft. So the one I'm going to be presenting today is 1472H. So if you remember the bill, it adds some audit requirements to schools, to school districts. And so a number of things were brought up in the hearing, and so I've tried to accommodate almost all of that in this amendment. So first, I'll just go through it, starting at number one. So this is what you see on the page is a complete replacement for RSA 198:4-D, which is this auditing and reporting sort of section. So you can read it. It's easier to read this way. It's not like, only parts and crossed out and all that. This is the whole thing. Okay. So the initial paragraph, the only change is to add school administrative units, right? So this adds SAUs to those that report. Roman number 1, 2, and 3 are unchanged from existing law. We had a comment that Roman 3 was important because it was the MS-25 form, and we didn't want to mess with that, so we're not. So that's unchanged. starting in Roman 4, there used to be a Roman 3-A. And so because we're rewriting the whole thing, we're renumbering it so there's no more dash A's in there. It's just going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So Roman 4 is what used to be Roman 3-A. Okay. And I'm sorry.
Changed,
Well, I think it adds school administrative units.
but everything else is the same.
Yeah. It's not, the substantive part is really in what's now going to be called Roman 8. Okay, but we'll get there in a minute. Okay. So Roman 5 is, I think, unchanged from previous Roman 4. Now, 6 and 7 are the things that tell schools, et cetera, that they need to do an audit, right? And there are two ways in law that you can have audits. One is you can hire an independent public accountant, and the other one is you can use RSA 671:5 and elect an auditor, okay? So I cleaned up this language slightly so that it basically, Roman 6 is you don't use RSA 671:5, and Roman 7 is you do use RSA 671:5, right? So the main difference here is that 6 is saying that, and the rest of it is really the same, because it used to say if you hire an accountant, you go to RSA 21J:19 Part 2. Yes.
In Roman 8, line 13, the reference to sections 5 and 6, shouldn't that be to 6 and 7?
In Roman,
Line 13.
oh, you're absolutely right. Yep. So he renumbered it, but he didn't renumber that part. Okay. Yep, you're right. We haven't got there yet, but you're right. So there's a little tweak that we need to fix here.
Nice catch. Thank
Yes, thank you. Okay. During caucus, I'll get a new one. Okay. Anyways, so back to Romans 6. Yes, 6. So this is the same as it previously was, with the addition of school administrative units and also changing the way it describes it, because it used to just say if you hire an independent public accountant, then go to RSA 21J. All right, but now we're saying, making it clear that you must do one or the other, right? If you're doing 671:5, you're doing Roman 7. If you're not, you're doing Roman 6. Okay. Now, as Representative Spilsbury pointed out, in Roman 8, the reference should be to 6 and 7, not 5 and 6, because we renumbered stuff, right? And anyway. So this is the bulk of the original bill. So it took all the two main new sections of the original bill and put it here. So it's expanding the list of the things that have to be part of an audit, right? So previously it just said balance sheets, revenue sources, but from the Senate bill, it was this stuff like an itemized list of all employees on staff, pay, benefits, etc. This was Representative Brown's suggestion, was that we add benefits and other post-employment benefits and pension liabilities, so we put that in there. And the other stuff is from the Senate bill. And then the timing. So we had some complaints about the timing in the original bill, and essentially I went with what the accountant, Mr. Campo, suggested, which is that they have to submit the audit to the department after 9 months from the end of the fiscal year. And that's the same as the federal audits. So anybody who's doing a federal audit, this is the same. And then I made 3 months for the department to just verify that it's complete. And then another 12 months if there are problems that needs to be fixed. So there's going to be a fairly extensive section where they can work with the department, get things fixed. And then only would there be withheld money. And I added the word on line 21 at the end. This was our chairman's suggestion to add the word grant in front of funding. So it's not all state funding, it's grant funding that could be withheld. So it's not quite as severe as it was in the original bill. And then section 9 is new. So that's just saying we want this to be in a searchable format on the web and published on the website. So I spoke with both Senator Murphy and Mr. Campo this morning, the accountant, and both of them approved of this language. Obviously, we're going to need Representative Spilsbury's correction. So.
Dan, for Dan, with the what Mr. Campbell said, and we also had the other two from Keene, but he did a really excellent job in presenting this to us. He indicated there's times when they're doing the audit that the audit, if you want a real good audit, you may have to go beyond that 9-month period. Is that what you're trying to say then on lines 19 and 20? The department may grant extensions as needed to address any disputed items or to gather information which is needed? How's this all work? Is it 9 months that they need, or is it by the end of a year, 12 months?
So I spoke to him about this, and the way he thinks about it is the deadline is March 31st, right? Because the end of the fiscal year is June 30th, right? So the deadline in question for him is March 31st. And he thinks that's perfectly reasonable because that's the federal deadline for getting things done. And so, but because some of these are going to be non-professional audits, right? Some of them are elected and all that. Mm-hmm. And it could also be that, you know, an accountant can do an audit and sign a letter that says there are problems here, right? Mm-hmm. You know, you can get I don't know what they call it, a bad letter or something.
With findings.
You will find adverse, yeah. So that would give a whole year after that to do corrections.
I think you had.
Representative Bricky?
So when you were explaining this, you said the commissioner could withhold state grant funding, but this says the commissioner shall withhold. So they have to withhold, or should it be may?
No, it's.
You said they could.
I understand. I understand.
I'm sorry, line 21.
Yeah, the shall is from the original bill. I did not change it.
Okay, because the way you explained it, you said the commissioner could withhold, meaning that maybe not, but so.
Oh, okay. So
The
in
commissioner
that case, I
can,
misspoke.
allow for extension.
But
That's where the discretion
But-
exists.
it says the commissioner could allow for it only if there's discrepancies. That's the
So-
only reason for,
All right,
An extension.
let me be clear. So you're only withholding funds from anyone who's non-compliant, right? And you're non-compliant if you've reached the end of the correction period, right? The 12 months from submission, and it's still deficient. Right? Otherwise, you're working within the mechanism of this section, right? So at that point, that's when there would be monies withheld.
What's your definition of non-compliant?
A deficient audit, right?
They've got this report here, and they're starting to work towards those recommendations or findings within it. Does that mean they're non-compliant? They're still not in tune with where they need to be in accordance with the law or standards of the state, but they're in compliant and trying to work towards that end.
I think that was, sorry, Commissioner.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that was explained. So when the auditors have been making the efforts to the school district with their questions to get responses, the school's not responding, right? So the school districts are delaying those responses, they're delaying their audit, they're not able to complete. That's the non-compliance, under my interpretation. So one, if they're not even attempting to make an audit, but two, they're not even attempting to work with the auditor when he's submitting his questions for information, that should be a non-compliance. I think the extension was to the auditors are working in good faith to complete the audit. The school district's working in good faith to work with the auditor to complete it. They just aren't able to meet the time frame, so the extension there is in good faith.
So there's two things we're talking here. Non-compliance with following the process and that. The other is non-compliant with the law.
I can address. If I may.
Yeah, Representative Popovich, then Representative Damon.
Thank you. I was, audited repeatedly when I was a finance director. I also had the CPA license, which is no longer active because I didn't keep up with my CTEs, but I've been in this space for a while. I believe that all we are talking about in Roman numeral 8 is the completion of the audit. If you look at it, it doesn't talk about addressing any weaknesses found in the audit. The audit found you're not keeping track of this correctly. This is not what we're talking about. It talks about you have 9 months to submit a report. Then the department has a period where the department reviews the report and determines whether the report fully contains everything that it should contain. And then the 12-month period would be following a department finding that the report as submitted does not meet the legal requirements and there are things missing from it. And that requires the district to complete submitting those items and have them reported properly. We are in no way talking about addressing deficiencies found in an adverse finding in an audit.
No, Representative Damon.
So,
They don't seem to be against it.
So I have some need for clarification, I'll call it. If I may, Representative Colcom, I appreciated your explanation and it made sense to me, but I don't read the bill to clearly say that. So I don't object to what you indicated it would mean. But I'm not getting that from reading the language that's here. That's my first thing. Secondly, and I'm only mentioning people by name because it's easier to clarify, to communicate. So Representative Popovich and Muller, respectfully, I think it does say that districts need to address things because when you look at line 20 and 21, deficiencies shall be corrected no later than 12 months from the date of submission. Either you and I are interpreting that differently, or the bill says you have to take some action. One more before, and then I'll pause.
Yeah, Representative.
And then I do want
Okay.
some explanation of some examples, I guess, of what is meant by grant funding, because some people term the adequacy payments grants. And I think we need to be very, very clear what we mean by what would be withheld.
Representative Popovich.
Thank you, and I appreciate my colleague. And by the way, in this particular type of work session, I don't have any stress about names being used. We got to know who we are talking about. I appreciate your concern, but we are good. Deficiencies in this case, again, all that paragraph 8 describes is the completion of the audit. A word has to be interpreted in context. So in this context, we are talking about completing the audit in 9 months. The department has a 3-month review where you can see it says shall verify that the report appears complete. It doesn't say it shall look at the findings. It just says, do you have everything that the law requires you to? And then it says, okay, then there are deficiencies. The deficiencies referred here can only be the deficiencies in the previous review process, which is reviewing the completeness of the audit. So in here, we are clearly talking about deficiencies in completing the audit as required by this chapter, nothing else. Otherwise, it would use the word address adverse findings and correction measures and whatnot. So I just wanted to explain where I'm coming from. I completely, hear what you are
Representative Spilsbury, and then Representative Fellows.
Thank you. So I'm going to hit on a couple of points to bring that together, I think. First of all, I like the 9 months rather than the 6. Correspondingly, reducing the DOE review from 6 months to 3 is a good idea, so that in either case, 6 plus 6 in the underlying bill, 9 plus 3 is 1 year. I'm not quite sure I understand why we're adding 12 months to the base of 9 months. That now is 21 months. I question that. I would have thought that should be tighter. I mentioned last week that I thought non-compliant was insufficient, and I think that's come out clearly in this discussion. We should say non-compliance with what? And I think that the non-compliance here is intended to be this 3-part timeline. Particularly, the 9 months is what's in the district's control. As far as the deficiencies, yes, I want to just emphasize what Representative Popovich and Mueller just said. If it's not clear, an audit is a record of history. And the point is that the audit has to be complete and everything that the accountant requested has to have been provided. So these deficiencies refer to shortcomings in the submission. This is not, and again, we may want to clarify this, this is not saying that if the audit has detected problems, that those problems, those historical issues have been corrected. That is not what it's trying to say. And as far as grant money, I think it definitely does mean adequacy aid.
Representative Fellows, you were next.
Thank you. So I agree there's an issue with the deficiencies. And in terms of the months, when the bill should be submitted, one thing that's going on here is this particular statute was never meant to talk about how to do the audit. There are multiple other statutes that we're not looking at in this bill. And one of them is RSA 21J19, which does say that the audit is due within 12 months. So that's a issue. In terms of what an audit does, it doesn't look at the financial information in the reports, but it's really focused on the policies and the procedures that the district has in place to make sure that the financial information is correct. You have to follow certain policies and procedures. So deficiencies, which we don't have a definition for, would most likely relate to those particular issues, saying you don't have the right checks and balances going on to make sure that people are only people who are authorized are spending money and that sort of thing, and that you're checking your, that your accounting system is set up correctly and that kind of thing. But I think I don't think it's going to work. You can't just put things about how to related to the audit in this particular statute with this one, part 8, because things about audits are scattered all through our laws, and a lot of times this is because the requirements don't apply just to school districts. They're the same requirements that apply to municipalities. So this is, you put things in here and you're just contradicting what it says somewhere else in statute.
Yes, Representative McGuire, and then Representative Cocon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if you read I don't think there's anything wrong with the sentence on line 22 that has the word non-compliant, because it ends with the section, with this phrase that says they're non-compliant until the audit or financial report is completed and submitted to the department, and any questions are answered to the commissioner's satisfaction, right? That's what makes it compliant, right? So you're non-compliant until those things, right? So it's all about getting the report in and complete, not about that you don't have financial problems in your city, but at least you've got an audit report that tells you what's going on, right? So that you can, in the future, do better. So, that's that. And the other thing is the language here is all the language from the original bill, right? Except for changing the dates and adding the items that I explained. This little bit it's the same structure as the original bill. Thank you.
Representative Colcom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we're talking about, I actually have two things. First, let me go with what I think is the simple thing. On line 25, on page 2, where it says the department shall make reports filed under the section available on the public website. Would we be in agreement to make that state the Department of Education, the city, the school districts, and the SAUs shall make that available on their websites? I think that it would be very beneficial for people to be able to go to their school district and find these audits. So putting it into the statute, since we're writing it, I think would be a great and you have to amend this anyway, so I think that might be a great opportunity to throw that in there. Secondly, I agree in that we should focus the non-compliance on completing the audit, not necessarily the findings of the audit. However, in audit, Representative Fellows, it absolutely does include the financial aspect. It's the materiality of the financial pieces as well as the internal controls. They don't necessarily go through every policy, but they go through the internal controls of the financial matters. So that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest reason behind doing the audit, is to check the financial information of the school district, city, whoever's being audited. Thank you.
Representative Bricky.
So I'm looking at Mark Manganello's memo to us on 4/7 regarding SB 586. And there are still a lot of issues that he brought up that are not addressed by this amendment. I'm really concerned that the New Hampshire Education Department may not be able to do this. I'm not sure that the New Hampshire Education Department is really where this belongs and not with the DRA, where it's always been. The audit has always been. I guess that's all that I need to say about it. I'm concerned that we didn't address the things that were brought up by the Department of Ed. And if we're gonna put all of this onto the Department of Ed. The other thing that I'm concerned about is that it says searchable electronic format. And I can't remember if it was Mr. Campos or Dr. Green who said they were worried about making it a searchable because they could edit it. Somebody could edit it and change it. So I don't know. I feel like we're sending this to the Department of Ed and we're not addressing the things that they asked for. So that's it.
Does everybody have a copy of that form that Mark provided us from the department? Why don't you read those last 3 bullets, please, Representative Bricky?
So it says the New Hampshire Education Department would like to. Which form is that? It's not a form. It was the memo dated 4/7 from Mark Manganello, Bureau of School
The
Finance.
3 bullets to the bottom, not the ones, the 4 up top, which are local concerns. We have people moving in and out and all this other stuff. But the 3 there.
It says the New Hampshire Education Department would like to request a work session with the committee on how these issues could be addressed. If the committee would like to move forward with this legislation, we would like to discuss setting an audit requirement policy that could be adhered to by the field, the need for resources within NHED as described in the fiscal note to operationalize this legislation. And third bullet, this bill repeals and replaces the existing, this bill repeals and replaces the existing DOE 25 process in RSA, which needs to remain intact for existing processes to allow for timely tax rates and statewide financial reporting. And that one, Representative McGuire did say that was addressed, but I'm concerned that we didn't work with the department, and we're putting all of this onto the department.
So is the primary issue the resources necessary for the commissioner to look at these reports and staffing? Is that what we're looking at?
I think staffing is probably an issue. That was what the, I have the financial note right here. That was part of it. And also, let's see. It said they would need one charter school auditor and 2 district auditors. So, that's $500,000 for the 27 school year and almost $500,000 for 28 and 29. And I guess that
sort of addresses that particular point. Representative Spilsbury.
Yeah, I just want to make this observation because I think it cuts across a number of things we're saying. We have to be mindful of what audience we're trying to get which information in front of. Is the audience the school board, the residents and taxpayers of the district, the DRE, or the DOE? And the answer to that differs depending on whether we're talking about the filings that have to be in by October, November for the purposes of setting the tax rate. That's historically been DRA. That's not what we're talking about here. The DOE 25, this doesn't displace the need for the DOE 25. What we're talking about when we speak of audits is really a matter between the auditor and the school board to review the administration for the benefit and information of the community. So let's not overestimate or escalate what we're asking the DOE to do. The DOE in this bill, I would think, is at most being asked to review that the filing or submission requirement has been met. They're not in an evaluative mode here. The evaluation, it seems to me, stays back in the district and put squarely in the lap of the school board.
Representative McGuire?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So just want to remind you, this is a policy committee. This is an early bill. This will be going to the Finance Committee should it pass the House. The Finance Committee is the one that will deal with staffing and resources and that sort of stuff. That's the main thing we do. Thank you.
Good Chair.
I think that much of this discussion is, we got onto the costing of staff, but much of it is process. And to make sure we have the process down correctly and proper interpretation of words like non-compliance, compliance. And I think the Representative Colcom was absolutely correct on line 25 on the second page, when we're saying the Department of Education has the responsibility for posting this stuff on the web. Maybe that should be the local school district. Maybe that should be the city. Maybe it should be the governmental agency that's responsible for this audit, not the department. Let's go ahead now, Representative Popovich.
I just wanted to remind everybody that I thought the intent was to just present the amendment and then have a discussion. I don't want to call for it right now, but I just wanted to inquire as to when is it time to go to two separate discussions.
I think we're getting really close to going into a caucus here. One more, was there another question on this side? On this side, Representative Damon?
I don't think this is a new question. I may be asking
or
for
comment?
repetition or clarity. So I guess I'm just really not comfortable yet with the use of the word deficiencies as it's stated here. Seems unclear to me, and the explanations that we've heard don't seem to me completely to be what's in the language here. So I don't know if anybody is open to proposing language that makes the use of the word deficiencies here more clear. And I also want to echo the concern that I'm pretty confident was Dr. Green brought up about searchable electronic formats being vulnerable to being modified. I don't think we want that folks to have access to change the audit online. So we need to look at what way we would post it. I'm certainly not opposed to making it public, just doing it in a safe way.
Okay, so we're going to, Representative Fellows, this is the last comment.
I just want to point out again that there are other statutes involved here, and just to read you what one of them is. It says, unless otherwise required by law, within 10 days of the acceptance of a governing body, which could be a school board, of any completed audit, a complete copy of the audit and any accompanying management letter shall be submitted to the commissioner, meaning the commissioner of DRA, by the governing body. If the governing body has not accepted the audit and any applicable adjustments within 45 days of receipt, the audit as received or adjusted and any accompanying management letters shall be submitted to the DRA commissioner. I mean, there's statutes there's other statutes that say the date that, it has to
Can
be
you give us the
within here.
citation for
There's
that one?
many
Give us
other
the RSA.
statutes. This particular one that I'm reading you is 41:31-D. And I have printout here, 4 pages of the other statutes that are related to a school
Can
district
you list
audit.
those statutes off for us, please? Can you list those off? Tell us, how many statutes are you referencing?
So I can get a copy printed, but first one is 21-J19.
Yeah.
That one, it has to do with hiring a certified accountant and submitting the completed audit to the school board. 21-J21, that has to do with distribution of a copy of the audit and the findings. There's 41:31B, which has to do with the part about you can hire a CPA or you can go that route of electing the auditors. 41:31C says has to be, it says municipality, but if you go and look at another RSA, it tells you school districts have to do this same thing. It requiring the audit and has more about that option to do it with the elected people. And it also has one exception when the school district is really small. The DRA commissioner may agree for them not to do a full audit, to do a simpler version of the audit. 41:31D is reports. That's the one I just read you. There's also 198:4-D, which that's in an education law that talks about an independent audit and refers to the other statutes. These statutes refer to each other. And then that
Can you give me that one again? That citation?
198:4-D. And I also have 671:5,
That's the one we're in.
671:5, which has to do with the details of how you go about if you use the elected auditors.
Okay, that's fine.
And I have it printed. I thought we were gonna have caucus first and I was gonna make copies for
Yeah,
everybody.
we are going to be going into caucus right now. So if you could get copies made of that, that'd be appreciated.
Right now?
Go across the hallway. So, thank you. We'll caucus in this room. You guys have one, I think, across the hallway. Okay.
So which ones are we doing today?
Are we doing it right away as soon
The
as
last two,
get this, or?
580 and 586.
Okay.
Certain places where essay was not appropriate.
Good job.
That's my plan. My sister's the one traveling. My son said. She's going like. She just.
Yep, thank you. Okay, we're out of our caucuses and we're back here. It's about 2012 here. We're on SB 586, and I'm going to look to Representative McGuire to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move Senate Bill 586 ought to pass, and I have an amendment to offer.
Second?
Okay, we have Madam Clerk, we got a motion on the table right now to OTP 586 made by Representative McGuire and second by Representative Spilsbury. Representative McGuire, do you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, I'd like to offer Amendment 1500H.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to amend 586 with Amendment 1500H made by Representative McGuire and second by Representative Popovich. Representative McGuire.
So this is the same amendment that we were discussing earlier today with 3 small changes. If you turn to page 2, on line 13, we corrected the reference to paragraphs 5 and 6 are now Roman 6 and 7, as they should have been. On line, let's see here, line 22, after withhold state grant funding, we added the phrase, not including RSA 198:40A funding. That's adequacy funding. And there's some question as to whether that could be considered a grant or not. So we decided to be explicit there so that it's not included. And then in section Roman 9, starting on line 26, we added that it won't just be, these reports won't just be on the Department of Education's website, but it will also be on the websites of the individual reporting entities.
Does the
Yes, I did.
speaker, the second, want to speak to the amendment?
No further.
No.
Yeah, Representative
Oh, yes.
Popovich made that.
On the amendment.
Okay, further discussion on the amendment. Representative Fellows.
So when I read this, the very last thing on the Roman numeral 9, when I read it in the other room, and it says, the department shall make something available, excuse me, on their website, I took that to mean the department website. You saying that's supposed to mean the district website?
So look, the new, it says on their websites, plural, sorry, it says on their websites,
With
and
a
it says
plural?
right there, look.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
COE and reporting entities on their
Okay.
website.
Further discussion, Representative Damon.
Geez.
Thank you, Mr.
That's
Chair.
school district.
So first of all, thank you for including the change or putting in the change on line 22 where adequacy funding would not be part of what was withheld. We appreciate that. A question was raised in our caucus discussion that didn't come up in our meeting earlier this morning. So in a multi-district SAU, if the SAU, if this is statute, if the SAU fails to comply with the terms for the audit, the deadlines and so forth, it would appear that the school districts within that SAU would have consequences even if they have properly filed their audits. So we're concerned about that because if you're a multi-district SAU, you don't have 100% control. One district does not have 100% control over the SAU. So we'd like to entertain some language to address that.
Representative Bricky and then Representative Colcom.
So I brought up the issue, SAU 46 includes Merrimack Valley and Andover. So Andover does everything they're supposed to do. Merrimack Valley does not. So SAU 46 cannot. So that means Andover gets their monies withheld. Because SAU, Andover is part of SAU 46. That's the way I read it. And so, and I didn't think of that until we were in there.
Mr. Chairman,
Representative Colcom.
thank you. I think the problem we're trying to solve here is to make sure that the audits are getting put through and that our school boards are not neglecting their responsibilities. And the SAU has a board which consists of all of the school district boards of all districts. So if the school district boards that can make up the SAU board are failing in their responsibilities of getting the audit done timely, then they all should be affected by the fact that they are not doing their due diligence with their SAU board obligations, is my opinion, which is why we should continue with this.
Further discussion, Representative Bricky.
Well, but I agree that there is an SAU board and it consists of both boards. But the Andover School Board, in the case that I'm talking about, Andover School Board has 5 members. Merrimack Valley has 11. Andover is not able to make the Merrimack Valley School Board do their job. It just, that's not the way that an SAU board works. I mean, and somebody brought it up in caucus. So it would be like you get stopped for speeding and you arrest the passenger.
May I follow up?
Yes.
But if Andover is the one that is holding back and causing, they're also not getting their grant money. So that's the reason why.
No, they're not the one holding back. Andover's not
So
holding
then the
back.
opposite. So if it's the other one that has the control and they're not getting things done, they're also not getting their grant money.
Yeah, but
So
Andover's
neither
not
one.
getting their grant money and they're not holding back.
Representative McGuire.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think this is an issue. An SAU is an independent and it has its own books and employees and income and outgo and so on. And they're the ones that would get an audit of those items, right, of its own finances. And it's pretty clear here that if an SAU is not complying with the audit requirements here, that what would be withheld is any checks that come from the DOE to the SAU, not ones that go to the individual school districts, if those school districts are complying with their audit requirements.
Representative Popovich and then Representative Damon.
I would ask you, if you would, to look at the language on page 2 and specifically lines 22, 23, or 21 also. The department shall withhold state grant funding, not including RSA 19840, allocated to any non-compliant city, school district, charter, public school, or SAU. Right? Now, in this example of one SAU with 5 school districts, we will have 6 audits that are required, one for each school district and one for the SAU. Which of them is non-compliant in your scenario? It is the SAU, while the other 5 entities have completed their audits. I hear that you disagree, but I'd like to just finish explaining what I think here. So, to me, the law clearly says that it is the non-compliant entity. In this case, it would be the SAU, which will not affect grants going to the 5 school districts. So it will only affect any state funding that goes directly to the SAU. This is how I read this, and I would, of course, want to hear.
But
Go ahead.
sorry.
Representative Damon.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm listening to the different points of view, and I'm now highlighting on line 23, still obviously on page 2, the word or. So from what Representative Papavici-Muller just said, and reflecting on that word or, it would seem to me that it would be at the discretion of the commissioner if an SAU audit is non-compliant, but the district audits within that SAU are compliant. The commissioner would be able to only withhold funds from the SAU, not from the school districts.
Representative Spilsbury?
It's just my point. I would agree with what you've just said, except that it's not in the discretion of, that's what the commissioner would be compelled to do, to make that distinction. It's any individual unit.
Wait, where are you?
Yeah.
Well, it says any, right?
Oh,
And then
any.
it
Yeah,
says
I was looking for the
or.
word
So I think what you've said is correct, but it's not discretionary, it's mandatory. The commissioner could not withhold the funds from the district based on the failure of the SAU.
Representative,
My question is, can the if in the case of what I was just saying, if Andover does their audit like they're supposed to, Merrimack Valley does not, can the SAU actually complete their audit if it includes both the SAU budget, the SAU includes both districts. So how could they complete their audit if Merrimack Valley hasn't completed their audit?
Your example that you posited, there's two non-compliant entities. The larger
Right.
district is non-compliant for its own reasons, and the SAU is non-compliant even if it was only, derivatively a victim. But Andover district is fine.
Representative Popovich.
I think there is a misunderstanding that I'd like to clarify. A school district in a multi-school district SAU being non-compliant would not prevent the SAU from being compliant because the SAU is only audited on the transactions that are within their control. So you can only get audited on the stuff you've already done. On anything that you've already done, you have your records. Now, when a school district does not have an audit on time, usually it's because they either cannot be bothered or they just don't know where the records are or they were not maintained properly, there are issues. But that failure is contained to that unit. Same thing. The SAU, in this case, would be responsible for maintaining their own records and their own processes. Nothing that a school district would fail in audit-wise can lead the SAU to fail because of that. If the SAU fails, it is because of their own internal reasons, and they should be held accountable for that failure. So, again, I understand exactly what your concerns are, but I do believe that they are based on the assumption that a school district not having proper records would cause an SAU audit to fail. And I genuinely do not believe that to be the case because they are two independent legal entities with their own records and everything.
Further discussion, Representative Phillips.
Yes. Just on that point, I don't see it quite that way. So what I think is the SAUs, all the audits, and if you have a multiple district SAU, all the audits, all the financial accounting is taking place in the SAU office with staff. And sometimes it's the same staff people working on the finances of all the school districts, and sometimes there are different individuals working on different districts. So if there's something wrong with the procedures that the business administrator is using, for example, if he's or she is required to verify purchases or require certain information from the districts, you would expect that has the same rules of operation for all the districts. So it's not, the failure could be at the SAU office. It was something that applies to all the districts. It could also be with only one school district because school district boards have responsibilities related to looking at the finances and approving them and that sort of thing. So there are different failure points, but it's not all one or the other.
Representative Popovich.
I will be very brief and say that what I've previously said was that a failure in a school district cannot trigger a failure in the SAU. If an SAU does not do the job that the various school districts are hiring them to do and the school districts are aware through the year, well, then they really need to fix those omissions and process problems in time for them to complete their audits. At the end of the day, the school districts together control the SAU. And if you choose to be in an association like this, where you end up hiring a bad SAU for whatever reason that doesn't do their job, then yeah, there will be consequences for the people who hired those people. It's unfortunate, but it is the nature of having a joint, right, SAU where you are together with multiple towns. There are places where the failures of the SAU do affect multiple towns. There is nothing we can do about that.
Further discussion? Not seeing any, we're going to, Representative Damon.
This is a different topic within the bill, which did come up earlier. We remain believing on line 20 when it speaks about deficiencies being corrected. We need a definition of deficiencies in the language of the bill. It's just not clear.
Further discussion? Representative Fellows.
So, in terms of defining deficiencies, there are some findings in audits that are not particularly worrisome because they are in there because audits have to comply with a certain guidelines of what they need to put in the audit. And for an example would be depreciation of buildings. So that if you're a company, that's a really important piece of information. But for a school district, if they have no intention of selling the building and they don't take depreciation as any kind of expenditure, that's not necessary. So not all findings are particularly worrisome. And so how are we going to know which they should care about and which they should not?
Representative Weiler.
All the audits I read define what a deficiency is and how it affects the overall, and that's something that's worse than that. But they define right up front in all the audit language what is meant by a deficiency. So I don't think we need to define it.
Further discussion here in the committee. Representative Bricky.
But the deficiencies are not, so deficiencies are not, or what we talked about before was that the deficiencies were not in the findings. The deficiencies were in the process of, so I think that that's what we are asking about when we're talking about deficiencies need to be defined here, because we are talking about not deficiencies in the findings, but deficiencies in the process. So I don't know if even if it just needs to say something like errors in the process or something, but deficiencies has a connotation with audit, has a specific connotation with an audit, meaning that there's something wrong with the finance. And that's not what, well, and I don't know if that's changed, if your interpretation of this bill has changed since we went into our caucus. But before when we were discussing it, we were talking about deficiencies in the process. Like, did they file on time? Did they do those kinds of things? So that was what we were, or that's what my, that's what I disagreed with the word deficiencies. That's why I disagreed with that.
Representative Mahegan.
I appreciate what you guys are saying, and I see it. The only thing is, for me, the context seems extremely clear. If you look at line 18, it says that the Department of Education shall verify that the report appears complete. And then it's followed by the word deficiency. So it seems that deficiency is defined by the previous line.
Further discussion? I'm going to try to wrap this up quickly here. Representative Fellows.
I think I have important points to make that we haven't already covered. I'm concerned that what is in this amendment conflicts with existing statutes. For example, as I mentioned in the work session or whatever that was that we were doing before, that the requirement is to submit the audit within 1 year. And this has 9 months on line 17. And there are also numerous other statutes that this conflicts with. And I have a list of them, and I think it's irresponsible of this committee to put forward a bill that has numerous conflicts with existing statutes.
Further discussion? Representative Hall? Or Representative, oh, I saw a hand up down there, Dick. Representative Ames?
Still at the corner.
Not in the corner.
Yeah, on the state grant withholding language, which is at line 21 to 21, I guess. I can't even read this, 21 to 22. Adequacy grants, if that's what they are taken out. I understand that. What, can you give me some examples of state grant funding that would be subject to this withholding process?
Representative Spilsbury?
Well, examples would include extraordinary needs grants, fiscal capacity disparity grants.
Are those not in, so that's all, but that's significant. Okay, so those could be subject to, could be withheld, is what you're saying?
Yes.
They are not in 19848,
198 just
Not in
contains
A.
base cost and the three areas of differentiated aid.
and they're picked up separately. Okay, now we know that. And that can be a lot of money for a place like Manchester.
Further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, would you please, Representative Damon,
Do you want to caucus? Yes. We need to caucus.
they're going to caucus. Go ahead.
We'll try to be brief.
Yep, thank you.
Wish I had.
On the table. Motion is OTP A on the amendment. We haven't gone to the whole motion yet, but it's with we're working on this amendment. And at this point in time, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll on the amendment?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative McGuire.
Yes.
Representative Weiler,
Yes.
Representative Colcom.
Yes.
Representative Popovici Miller,
Yes.
Clerk Brown, yes. Representative Mahegan,
Yes.
Representative Peoples,
Yes.
Representative Damon,
Yes.
Representative Ames.
Yes.
Representative Burton,
Yes.
Representative Fellows.
Yes.
Representative Hall,
Yes.
Representative Bricky,
Yes.
Representative Christian,
Yes.
Representative Weinstein,
Yes.
and Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
So 17-0 passes.
Thank you very much. Representative McGuire.
Yeah, so ought to pass with amendment. I move it.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table to OTPA SB 586 with amendment 1500 and second by Representative Spilsbury. Further discussion from the maker of the motion?
Yeah, I think we've been here 2.25 hours, I guess. So I think it's been,
Further from the second? Other discussion? Representative Fellows?
I just need to say that I think that it's irresponsible. I understand the accountability part of it, and I certainly agree with that. But I think that we're being very hasty with this. I think we could craft a much better bill that would serve everybody's needs if we took some time and worked with the Department of Education, if we talked to got more input from the auditors, so that we would, and also do something to clean up the fact that this bill conflicts with numerous other statutes. And I just think it's too bad that we can't do that.
Further discussion, Representative Bricky?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Vice Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
Representative McGuire,
yes.
Representative Weiler, Representative Colcom, yes. Representative Popovici Miller,
Yes.
Clerk Brown, yes. Representative Mahegan,
Yes.
Representative Peoples,
Yes.
Representative Damon,
No.
Representative Ames,
No.
Representative Burton,
No.
Representative Fellows,
No.
Representative Hall,
No.
Representative Bricky,
No.
Representative Christian,
No.
Representative Weinstein,
No.
Chairman Ladd.
Yes.
9-8 passes.
Okay, so that will go on the regular calendar. Who will be writing the minority report? Representative Damon and Representative McGuire. You got the, pardon me?
Need it today?
Let's see, you got to get out of here. How about by tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock?
And what's the minority motion?
Pardon me? Yeah, the minority motion is ITL. Okay,
Can you just tell me what the deadline is that we're working on?
May 7th.
No.
Get,
For all the bills. Oh, for this bill, it's this week. What is the date?
It has to be reported out by 1 tomorrow.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah.
By the end of today.
So we're running short here. So I got to have this one bill we're doing it on by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Preferably tonight if you can get it to me. So that way I can get it to our support staff.
I'll do it.
And we're moving on now to SB 580. And I'm going to invite up, do you want to speak to this briefly, Jen? The side by side? And then, take about 5 minutes and then we're going to go right into a motion here.
Okay. So you're looking at the side-by-side document that looks like this. On the left-hand column are sections 3 and 4 of SB 580. The right-hand column is language from Ed Rule 30301. Throughout the document, the gray highlighting shows the language that's comparable from one column to the next. And if you're looking at the second column and language exists that is not gray, that's an existing rule, but the bill does not have similar language. So looking at the very top, SB 580, subparagraph 6 says school boards and boards of trustees of charter public schools shall adopt policies relative to, and all of the subparagraphs are about adopting policies. In the second column, the ed rule, each school board shall. These are substantive duties. Some of them are policies and some of them are simply duties. So understand that those aren't exactly comparable. But then throughout, you'll see most of the language lines up to a degree. In subparagraph A and B, the rule has language about delegating authority to superintendents that isn't present in SB 580. And subparagraph D of the ed rules has language regarding school building maintenance that isn't present in 580. And then finally, subparagraph C, not present in 580 at all, as well as subparagraph L at the bottom on page 3. And language in 580 that isn't present in rules is in subparagraph E at the top of page 2 regarding training on fiduciary responsibility. So that's kind of an overview of differences. On page 4 through the end, I simply copied and pasted in Ed Rule 30604, which is additionally policy development that's required of the school boards. So you'd see that there are lots of other policies and rules that are required that are not reflected in SB 580.
Thank you very much. All right, the side-by-side enlightens us up on, thank you for the policy side, what's in rule and what is in law. I'd just like to take a brief chance. I'm going to look for a motion. I'm going to hand the gavel over to Representative Spilsbury.
Okay, I recognize Representative Ladd for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion of ITL on 580.
ITL, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Representative Damon. Okay, Representative Ladd.
And looking at the bill, it's almost like the three bills within the bill, but we know that it was introduced with these three components in it. The first one is dealing with the school cooperative purchasing program. We heard from Charlie Arlinghouse, Department of Administrative Services, that services are available through procurement here in the state. And so we may be duplicative right here of a program that's already existing, and there's a lot of cost savings using that. And on page 3, when we're talking about these policies that need to be in place, you can see by the side-by-side, there's some areas which have been dropped out of there. One is very notable, that there has to be a policy on evaluation of your staff. That's not noticed here, which is extremely important to me as a past administrator and principal teacher. And lastly, when we're looking at the last section here of going into receivership, we have had a bill which we've had before, HB 1816, all these bill numbers rattling around up here. 1816, which went through a real clear process where the department can engage and help the local districts in developing a recovery plan. And it gives the department up to a year. And it came out of this committee, 18-zip, went through the House as well. and now it's sitting over in the Senate. I believe that is the proper way to address issues such as we've been dealing with Claremont. Very pleased to notice that Claremont is really dug out of their hole and reimbursed Claremont Savings Bank that money which was borrowed, and they're on their way to possibly having a surplus at the end of the year. And that's a fantastic end to a very sad story which started out here about a year ago. So I think this bill is not needed. We have services provided already through Department of Administrative Services, and the policies those are in place in our school districts. And I think that's a local issue of elected officials. And the other portion I think is taken care of at 1816. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would hope we can ITL the bill.
Very good. Broad overview. Any further comments? Representative Damon.
Thank you. I'd just say as the second on the bill that I completely agree with the chair's summary and the idea of the process of this bill that really truly is three unrelated bills and topics being put forward in haste. The receivership part of it is a skeleton of what a good bill on that topic would be. Whether you agree with receivership or not, it was completely inadequate. Simply no opportunity to do the work that we should do on any legislation before putting it forward. It was wonderful to hear about the state's cooperative purchasing program, and I believe that there will be more communication coming from them to help districts know how they can benefit or evaluate whether they benefit from cooperative purchasing. And it is, as was noted, largely an issue of local control in terms of what the policies should be. And this is certainly an incomplete address of the policies. So for those reasons and more, very much appreciate the ITL.
Very good. Further comments? I'd like to just add one to put a fine point on the third component regarding receivership. I think that goes beyond what we need in this state. I think 1816 with its intervention is the appropriate method. And I think that Claremont illustrates the fact that with some assistance and alarm bells running, the school board has risen to the occasion. Representative Damon.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one more, that it is just delightful to hear acknowledgement of the vigorous efforts in Claremont and the progress that has been made there. I don't think all is okay. We really shouldn't have a surplus at the end of the year because there have been a lot of educational compromises made to achieve that. But that said, there has been great progress and a lot of responsibility taken. Thank you for acknowledging that.
All right. Seeing no further comments, clerk can call the roll on the ITL motion.
Representative McGuire,
Yes.
Representative Weiler,
Yes.
Representative Colcom,
Yes.
Representative Popovici Mueller,
Yes.
Clerk Brown, yes. Representative Mahegan,
Yes.
Representative Peoples,
Yes.
Representative Damon,
Yes.
Representative Ames,
Yes.
Representative Burton,
Yes.
Representative Fellows,
Yes.
Representative Hall,
Yes.
Representative Bricky,
Yes.
Representative Chrétien,
Yes.
Representative Weinstein,
Yes.
Representative Ladd,
Yes.
Chairman Spilsbury,
Yes.
17-0 passes.
Okay, 17-0 on the ITL motion. No objection. That'll go on consent, and Representative Ladd will write the committee report. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
That closes the exec session on 580.
And that will close what we're doing today. I will note for the committee, we will meet next on the 28th of this month at 10 o'clock, and we will deal with the remaining three bills, which you have on the sheet there. 491, 513, and 531. So those are the three bills which we have in front of us. You did receive some amendments today in paper. Please don't throw them away. With that, we are done. Have a great lunch, everybody. Thank you.